Oh man, construction just never stops in the city, does it? It's just, I've had scaffolding in my patio for like the past 3 months. It's been annoying, but hopefully it's going away this week, I hope. But anyway, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, by the way. Hope the turkey coma has treated you well. Today we're going to be taking a look at the iPhone 12 Pro. And I know what you're already thinking, we have to watch another iPhone 12 Pro review video. There's already so much on that. So don't worry, this is not going to be a full in-depth review, but we're going to be looking at the iPhone 12 Pro and asking the question, is this practical for making YouTube videos? And so to answer that question, I went ahead and just decided to film this entire video on the iPhone 12 Pro. So that's what you're looking at right now. Not too bad, huh? But yeah, that's what we're going to be looking at today is, can you get high quality video with the iPhone 12 Pro, high quality enough to make YouTube videos with it? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Let's get into it. All right, first let's talk about the camera specs on the iPhone 12 Pro. So with the iPhone 12 Pro, nothing's really changed. You still have your three lenses. You have the ultra wide, the wide, and the telephoto, but the wide is the one that is pretty much the one that's the most important one. It has the most resources dedicated to it. So we're going to be taking a look at the wide angle lens. Now the wide angle lens is a 26mm 1.6 aperture lens. Now 1.6 aperture, that's kind of insane. Now if you don't know what aperture is, let me explain it real fast. Hold on, let me go grab a lens. I'll be right back. Okay, we have this. Let's test the autofocus here. This is a 50mm Super Takumar lens that I bought off a buddy of mine. It's actually a really solid lens. And so, can you see the shutter closing and opening inside the lens? That's the aperture. That's closing, opening again, closing. Hopefully you could see that. Now, when you open that aperture up all the way, you're actually letting in more light to the lens. So when you get a lens that has a 1.6 aperture, you're letting a lot of light into the lens. So that means you don't need a crazy amount of light in your environment to be able to shoot a high quality video. So lower aperture, better in lower light, essentially. And then if you're shooting in like a bright sunny day and there's just too much light, everything's overexposed, then you just want to close that aperture up. It makes things a lot easier. Now, another thing that when it comes to aperture is that when you open up the aperture shutter, it actually creates a bokeh effect. And that is the blurry background you're seeing behind me, is that you get to see, it separates the subject from the background. And that is what is really nice about a low aperture lens, is you get some nice creamy background, some nice creamy bokeh effect that everybody loves. And it's pleasing to look at, and that's what adds that cinematic element to a lot of videos. Now, another cool feature of the iPhone 12 Pro is that it includes a LiDAR scanner. Essentially what the LiDAR scanner is it takes a three-dimensional scan of your environment and is able to kind of tell what the subject is from the background. It's able to calculate depth from certain objects. So it's able to tell that I am the subject and everything behind me is the background. And this is all being done algorithmically in real time. It's just wild to me. Calculating depth, there's a lot of math going on in this phone right now. So there's a lot going on. It's very complicated. But the most important thing is that the LiDAR scanner helps you to even further separate your subject from your background, also helping in low light situations. Now, Apple really advertised the LiDAR scanner as more of like, hey, this helps in low light photography. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but I was really hoping that the LiDAR scanner could be used more for video and helping with portrait mode video, essentially. But sadly, we didn't get that for this iPhone. I would love to see it, but have no fear, I have found another way to get portrait video. To get a more professional look out of your iPhone 12, I would highly recommend downloading the app Focos Live. Focos Live is really great because it uses the LiDAR scanner to separate the subject from the background and is able to add an additional bokeh effect to give you this really awesome cinematic look from your iPhone. And what's kind of crazy about this kind of portrait video mode is that you can adjust aperture in post. What? Like, you're not normally able to do that. I could actually go into post and edit the aperture to whatever I want. So if I wanted the background a little bit more blurry, or if I didn't want it as blurry, I could change the aperture right there. It's like, to me, that's just mind-blowing. It's insane. It's really awesome. Now, Focos Live is really great because it gives you a ton of export options. You can film in that 4K, you can film in the slow motion. It's really great. It does everything you need to do. It takes the stock camera app and basically gives it some steroids, and now you have Focos Live, which is pretty great. Now, Focos Live does have a Pro version, which is I think $15. I think it's just 15 bucks, and you can then export in the 4K resolution as well as the higher frame rates for that nice juicy slow motion footage. It's really great. Honestly, I would highly recommend looking into Focos Live if you are getting the iPhone 12. That way you can film some high quality video. Hey there, sorry about that. Future Jaren here. Just want to give you a couple notes after I just filmed this whole video that you just saw. Alright, first note, the iPhone footage that I'm looking at, it's still looking really good. Second note, I'm sorry I wasn't centered. I couldn't see what I was filming, so I couldn't frame myself up properly. I apologize. So I did my best to kind of crop it in. Hopefully it looks good. Another thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about Focos Live was that you can export at different options. So I exported this at, 4K 30, yeah. And you could choose the quality percentage. So you could go 40% quality, 60% quality, 80% quality, or 100% quality. Now, I think for 80 and 100%, you need that Pro version, right? That $15. So I paid that $15, and I can export now at 100%. That is the percentage we are at right now. We're pretty rough right now. So essentially, the way and the process this has to go of exporting is I export it from Focos Live to the Photos app, and then to the Photos app to my laptop, from my laptop into Final Cut, and from Final Cut to YouTube. So it's a lengthy process, and it's going to take a long time to process this whole thing. I mean, just look at that. We're having a rough time here. It's going to take a minute to get this whole thing processed. Now, keep in mind, when you're exporting this, there's two things. One, you want to have battery power. Don't export when you're in low battery, or make sure you have a power source. Like, I'm going to go plug this in as soon as I'm done with this. But, yeah, make sure you have power. Two, make sure you have storage. When I was exporting, it told me that this file, a 26-minute video that I recorded continuously, 26 minutes straight through, that whole file size was 9 gigabytes alone. Now, when it tells me that it's 9 gigabytes, that's telling me it's not trying to compress the file as much, so it's trying to preserve as much quality as possible. So, I mean, I kind of asked for it. But as I was reviewing the footage and making some adjustments to the exposure, overall, everything still looks phenomenal. Being able to edit the aperture and focus in post is just insane. The autofocus was really fast. When I put the lens up there and pulled it away, it looked great. The autofocus was very quick. So, for the most part, iPhone, not bad. Let's go back to iPhone filming me. Past Jaren. Yeah, we'll go back to him. And just kind of to test the camera a little bit, here's the difference between the stock camera app and Focos Live. I try to get these as similar as possible, but for the most part, Focos Live, you really have a lot more control and a lot more power than the stock camera app. Honestly, I think it looks a little better through Focos Live, but the camera app still looks great as well. All right, let's talk about the question of the day. Is this practical for YouTube? Honestly, yeah, it is. I mean, you look at how far iPhones have come. I mean, I still have my old iPhone 5S. I mean, look at this guy. It's just, I mean, honestly, coming from this, and this camera wasn't bad either. Coming from this, and now we're here, I mean, iPhone's come a long way. And iPhones are starting to rival mirrorless cameras. They're starting to rival that mirrorless camera market. I mean, even these point-and-shoot cameras, these little guys right here with the flip-up screen. This is a great camera, by the way. It's a Lumix LX10. It's a great camera, but, I mean, if I could just shoot on my iPhone and get just as good quality, getting the slow motion, getting the 4K footage, I really don't need this. This was a $600 camera, and it's still good, but my iPhone's just more convenient for me, honestly. I feel like mobile phones have basically taken over the point-and-shoot category, so that's kind of unfortunate, because this is still a great camera, but hey, I mean, the more convenient, the better, right? Now, our iPhone's starting to rival the big boys, like the Lumix G7. I mean, this is a great camera. This is my main shooter. This is what I shoot all my videos with in general. And this is still a great camera. The problem with it is that it has a crop sensor. Like, this is a really crop sensor that is, unfortunately, very, very small. And I can't really... It's cropped in, and it's not a very wide-angle lens, which is rough. But the iPhone has the wide-angle as well as the ultra-wide-angle lens. So you can see a lot more of my environment, the room, and it's a lot, I think it's just a lot better viewing experience. Now, the G7 is still a great camera. I mean, this is a $500 camera, which I think is still a fair price. It's a good investment. I mean, you get this flip-out screen. It's a touch screen here. You could attach a microphone to it if you want, which is really great. But, again, I could do all those things with the iPhone. Really, the only downside to filming with the iPhone right now is, like, I can't see what I'm filming. I can't see what I'm filming right now, which is kind of rough, but it is what it is. But even with the iPhone, I was able to attach a microphone to it. I'm using the Rode Video Micro right now, and it sounds just fine. Now, overall, I mean, I think iPhones are really kind of taken over in terms of cameras and photography. I mean, if I'm shooting landscape or portraits, I'm gonna use my iPhone. I really have no desire to use this or any other. Like, I'm not gonna go buy a $1,300 camera setup for shooting landscape photography. Maybe weddings or anything like that I would do. But honestly, if I'm just a casual photographer, you know, you got the power of a DSLR camera in your pocket, essentially. It really is that good. Now, as the iPhone continues to get better and better and better, Canon and Sony really have to kind of figure out, okay, what is it that we want to do to kind of stay ahead of the iPhone and other phones that have similar quality? Well, Sony kind of has a good idea of more doubling down on the video format in their video cameras with the Sony a7S III, which is a great camera, and it shoots beautiful footage. That's not quite, the iPhone's not quite up to that par yet. But Canon still feels like they are a photo-first camera. And don't get me wrong, Canon has always been photo-first. But with the iPhone being as good as it is, Canon really is going to have to say, you know what? People are shooting more photos on their phone, not really using our cameras to do it. But if Canon can lean into the video format like Sony is, I think they would be okay. The iPhone is still a ways behind in terms of cinematic footage. But honestly, filming with the iPhone is super practical. Alright, so bottom line, if you're starting a YouTube channel and you want to start creating content either for YouTube or even TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you want to film stuff, the iPhone still is a great option, especially if you're starting, and especially if you're already looking at upgrading too. The iPhone 12 Pro is a great option. Now for me, I'm probably going to be using the iPhone to shoot more kind of B-roll and slow motion footage, just because I think that's where it really kind of, that's its sweet spot, I feel. But I think in terms of just sitting down, talking head videos, I think this really does well. I mean, this still does good. The G7 still does good. It's still my main shooter, but the iPhone is slowly catching up. And it's going to be interesting to see where Apple goes in the next couple years. It's, yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be fun. So yeah, I mean, when YouTubers pretty much say, you know, I would use my iPhone to film, you can. I mean, you could do it with the 12. You can even do it with the 11 if you have the iPhone 11. Even my iPhone 10, I have a 10, I could film with that too. That is a good camera as well. I mean, there's so many options out there. Like I said, there's really no bad cameras out there these days. But yeah, using an iPhone, super practical for YouTube. Would highly recommend using it if you are just getting started. It just gives you a lot of options in terms of what you can do, which is great. So I do hope this was helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to be talking about this as a webcam in a future video and how to use this for a webcam for my fellow streamers out there and how good this is as a webcam. I think it's going to be pretty good. So we're going to be taking a look at that in a future video. But with that, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you guys. Be sure to hit that like button if you like this video, and be sure to hit subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And be sure to leave me a comment down below. What would you like to see in a future video, and what do you think of the iPhone 12 Pro? Do you think it's a good camera, or are you anti-Apple, or do you want to would you rather go with something like this? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Curious to see what you think. All right, with that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one, everybody.